By the way,
keep it under 8 hours.
Keep it clean.
We are now live. Hopefully, if it shows up here any
it
second.
says we're live.
Hey, it says live for me. Woo.
Goody.
Ooh.
There it comes.
Here
And it's working. Alrighty, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one of the first Google Hangout editions of movie reviews. This isn't tech. Hey, no tech complaints.
No,
Google
Hey,
is just
I'm not. I just had a reflex there. I'm using
Okay.
a Google product. It's
Google
just
is
reflex.
simply the middleman here, allowing us all to communicate and talk about this awesome movie, which I love so much.
Woo!
Endgame
good.
was beautiful. I thought
Very
it was an excellent conclusion. Oh, hey, no putting up with. We're gonna hide you if you try to spoil it in the chat. We're not into spoilers territory yet, but let's just talk non-spoilers at start, and then we'll move into spoilers later.
So first thing, can I just
Mhm.
say, tears.
Yes,
Oh my
especially at the ending, I was crying
Oh my
for
goodness.
reasons
Can't
we'll
talk
get
about
into in a
why
bit.
When you realize that this whole saga has been going on for
Mhm.
over a decade, tears.
Right.
I
Yeah,
did
like
not-
this is my generation's or our generation's like Star Wars
Star
in a
Wars.
way,
Yes.
because my dad got to see like A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi all within their lifetime. Like that's what they grew up with.
right.
And then we got to like, at least for me, I was 11 years old when Iron Man came out, and I saw it in the very same theater that I saw Endgame in.
Beautiful.
Oh,
So
wow.
Oh,
it was
poetic.
like
Wow, that's
a complete closure to everything. So it was like being a 21-year-old now and still watching these characters. But Endgame was clearly about the send-off for them, which I
Yes.
think was important because they knew this was like the last movie for a lot of their contracts and stuff.
Right.
So the way they handled it in a way that was respectful and satisfying, in a way they were able to like
Mhm.
subvert expectations, but in a good way, is what I love so much about it. But
Dude,
what did you guys think?
I love
So how are we organizing this? Because I know we don't want to get into spoiler territory for a little bit longer.
Just talk about feelings. Talk about
talk about feelings.
talk about your expectations.
I have
We'll talk
so
about
many
everything
feelings.
except the story. We'll talk about because like for me here, I'll kick it off, Nick. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'll add
Okay.
spoilers to the title here.
Yeah. So for me, when we look at the overall like arcing story of the Avengers as a whole, and so when they all
Yeah.
come together, and then they're all most of their perspective solo films, you have a sense, in every sense of the word, there's an investment in there that you've put into
Very much.
to the
Mhm.
story, and
Mhm.
like you are rooting for Iron Man, you are rooting for Thor, Black Widow. I mean, all the OG people there, and
Yep.
they're the ones who were the ones that were survived from the snap and stuff like that. I felt such a heavyweight lifted in two fronts, that it concluded and how they tied it all together, and knowing, like what you said, like this was all about just tying it all up for all of us, that it
Mhm.
was the most action packed. The 3 hours went by so quick.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
Definitely.
in the theater and I realized that by the time the credits roll, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom so bad.
Yeah.
But the credits were
It did
so
not feel like
epic.
3 hours to me at all.
No way.
Credits were so credity, so epic, but they're perfect. Like when I saw the credits, my eyes watered up again because I was like, oh my god, this is it. This is their
Yeah.
send off.
And I was so satisfied because of my disappointment in Captain Marvel. I was worried that she was going to become the ex machina of Endgame. Like, especially at the beginning of the film was when Iron Man is on the ship and then she
Right.
appears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Spoiler.
oh God, no, please don't let this be the whole movie. It doesn't make sense in the timeline. And I'm very happy with the amount of Captain Marvel in this film.
Yes.
They used
And you
her
know
very
what?
well. They
I'm
used her
happy.
character very well.
Wait, I maybe well, it's not really a spoiler. I just want to talk about Thor for a second. His
Yeah.
appearance.
Yeah, Fat Thor.
He made
Thor
me
was
feel-
huge.
he made me feel like it was okay to be me for once.
Yeah. It was so
You.
satisfying as like a Chris Hemsworth was like originally hired for Thor just because he was so like ripped
Yeah,
and he
funny.
was all in shape and everything. And that used to be like part of the experience of the Thor movies is that scene
Yes.
where he
Mhm.
takes his shirt off and everyone in the theater goes, "Woo, woo, it's Thor." So in this one, bringing it all together with him like taking off his shirt, he's got this giant beer belly. I was like, yes,
Hey,
that's more like it.
Thor, that thing on Fortnite is bothering us again.
Yeah.
Right.
You,
They
hello,
stuck
this is
Fortnite
the
in
God
there.
of Thunder here. I loved it. Everything
That's
from
not going to age well, though.
I don't care. That's the thing. Like it's meant for us. It's meant for
Yes.
us.
Yes.
And it
You
was
It
could
was a
tell
love letter to the Marvel fandom.
I loved
for
it.
big
sure.
fat white men were the main audience.
It's meant for me.
It's it's meant for me. Right. No, but this film's not going to age for a number of reasons, mostly because of people using the Pixel 3 in the year 2024.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It was the worst parts of the movie is when they brought out the Pixel 3 to take a picture where Jeremy Renner uses one. It's like, why would you be using that phone like 5 years after the snap?
Mhm.
When this
I don't
one's the
know.
one that's gonna last another 10 years.
Right.
Ooh,
They would have just,
word.
and if you look up the Avengers Twitter accounts, they all use iPhones. So I wish they could have just
Google
used the
paid
cast members' actual phones.
obviously.
Yeah.
Probably would have lasted longer, but still, that's
Apple,
a minor.
So,
even in the time of when everything's been wiped and half the everything, there's still iOS support.
Yeah, that's still there,
Yes.
of course.
But this
So,
is our
Um,
next show.
what did you think, Nick?
Yeah. So first off, I wasn't going to see it opening night. Thursday came around, and I had no plans to see it because I'm the kind of person who A, doesn't have any friends in real life, and B,
Dare you?
doesn't like admitting the fact that I am that lonely to go watch a movie by myself. So I
As
refuse
you
to
just
ever go to a
admit
theater.
to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I was like, oh, I don't. I was texting Sam Jones, one of the friends here on Twitter, and we're texting, and I was like, hey, what are you watching? Are you watching Endgame tonight? He's like, no, I'm not watching. I don't have anyone to go with. I'm like, hey, me too. And so anyway, I made a trip down there, and we hung out and saw it together. That was real fun. But since we were both Apple Sheet, when we saw the Pixel 3 up on the screen, we both looked at each other and gave the biggest eye roll on planet Earth. I think the entire
Yeah.
planet like tilted on its axis a little bit because the eye roll was just so big. It
Just
was
the tech enthusiasts noticed that. But
yeah,
hey, we
exactly.
got a super chat. Thank you very much from Kuno126, though he does disagree with us. I appreciate the
Ooh.
donation. He donated a $5 super chat. He says, please don't blow the movie. It was terrible. Tone was out of place. Hulk and Thor turned comic relief. Captain Marvel, Ex Machina twice in film, which I disagree with because, yeah, I'll add you as a mod. The main thing Captain Marvel was used for was rescuing Iron Man. And
Mhm.
for a while, I wanted Iron Man to save himself, just like he got out of that cave.
Yep.
But then he said in the movie that he's thousands of light years from any other galaxy. And once he said that, I was like, okay, there's not really a great way to get out of that. Like, there's no other character, there's no other
Yeah.
thing he and Nebula could have done on their own. So the fact that they needed Iron Man to get home,
I
Captain
was
Marvel is known to be this like light speed flying character. I agree. Captain Marvel is a poorly written character and it's a bad movie, but the fact that they were able to utilize her for like, okay, but she can get him back home. Like, I get that. That's fine. And by the time she shows up in the end, so we're getting into spoilers here. Basically,
spoilers!
it's almost comical how much they wrote her off because
I love it.
she shows up
because
and she's like, I got some other things to work on. Bye.
I gotta go.
Yeah. And I was like, good. This isn't your movie. This is about the original Avengers
Yes.
and how they handled everything. And I'm sure the Russos really didn't care that much about Captain Marvel either. They probably had to put her in there for the sake of pleasing producers.
Yeah, exactly.
I imagine. But she blows up the ship after it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
In the end fight
She's
because
a little late.
it
can
really
we talk about this in chronological order?
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the super chat from Rockford Tech as well. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Cool. So it opens.
Mm-hmm.
The opening was probably the most unique opening to any movie I've ever seen for a few reasons. I normally don't watch the trailers. Normally,
Mm.
I get to the movie theater just on perfectly on time to miss the trailers, but this time I didn't.
All right.
And we were watching all the trailers, and they're all things that I've already seen. Star Wars 9. Going through all these
Yeah,
trailers,
yeah.
and then
Aladdin.
yeah, exactly, all these trailers, and then it opens
Oh,
to Arrow, or not Arrow. No, sorry,
Hawkeye.
wrong universe.
Wrong
What's his
character.
name? Hawkeye. Thank you.
Wrong universe.
Wrong one. Whoops.
That's this universe.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I back that.
No, but I like that
corrected
opening.
myself. Let the record show. Yes, it was a really good opening, but for the first like 10, no, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds or so, I wasn't sure if it was the movie or if it was an ad, because I had seen part of that on Twitter somewhere. Somewhere I had
Oh,
seen that
okay.
in a trailer or something.
Oh, really?
And so I thought it was just a trailer for some other movie. It's like, what movie is this for? And then like, this is going like a little long for a trailer. Like, oh, learn how to shoot and whatever. And then like once they turned to dust, I was like, oh, we're in for it, boy.
That made it feel
That was
very real. That was a big concern I
Oh,
had
yeah.
with Endgame, is that they were going to gloss over the real life consequences of the
Yes.
snap and how it
Mhm.
affects the daily life. And I thought the Russos paid a very good amount of time to just like, once we saw the 5 years later thing, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, dang, we're
Yeah.
going there. We're going to see like what the world has come to. And
Mhm.
that Jeremy Renner was a great example, because that was a lot of people's questions. They were just like, they were just like, where is Hawkeye? The whole Infinity War, like what happened to
Mhm.
Hawkeye? And there was one
Right.
line where they were like, he's with his family. So now we see him with his family, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh snap, no pun intended. Let's show Hawkeye's consequences, and it's like now he has no reason to stay with his family and to
Yeah.
protect them because they're gone. So
What
it's nothing
family?
but vengeance.
The way you see it just like go like that. You turn.
I like that it
he-
wasn't as substantial as Infinity War's
Right.
snap.
He turned
Yeah.
around and all you see is just
Exactly.
the remnants of the.
Yeah, there
You-
wasn't like that big close-up shot where you
No.
see
Yep.
Ash and
You just
everything.
see the.
It was just like I check over here and then you look back and they're gone, which was a more
Mhm.
powerful moment, I
It
think.
is
Yes.
because we're seeing it from the points of view of someone who wasn't in the fight. I get it from a cinematic point that they want to
Yeah.
show us the close-ups, Mr. Stark, and because we're there with them when it happened.
That was interesting to watch back when
Yeah.
Infinity War came out, just because it was like
Yeah.
no one. Well, there were comic book fans out there, but most people have never watched a Marvel movie where they lose,
Right.
which is why it was so satisfying. And you can see throughout the film, specifically they shot it in Infinity War just so that every character would see their closest or most loved friend
Mhm.
pass
Die.
away.
Yeah.
Like Cap watches Bucky dissolve, and Iron Man watches Spider-Man, who's like this
Yep.
kid that he's like
His son.
raising and mentoring,
Yeah.
and Rocket watches Groot. Like it was
Mhm.
supposed to be in your face, whereas this was like showcasing Hawkeye, but not as a hero, just as an everyday dude,
Yeah.
which was a really good way to bring back a character that we haven't seen for a while simultaneously showing the real life consequences of the snap and how it affected the planet.
Can
I
I
love
just
that.
say, his haircut, completely awesome. the punk rock in me was like, dude, that guy's mohawk is like he's the rebel who doesn't care, just trying to teach his kid how to shoot a bow. Oh, what? Who puts mayonnaise on their food? Hey,
He has no idea what happened. He's just like, what the hell?
I was not expecting that, because you're right, Nick. That was an interesting opening because I just wasn't. I knew, yes, I knew what was going to happen. I didn't know how they're going to play it out. And also, leading up to the intro, I got a funny story because I did go Thursday night, just by accident. I wasn't supposed to, but extra tickets became available. So I was like, sure, let's.
I did Thursday night. Yeah.
So we went,
Same.
and they're like this sign, like reclining seat. Like I paid a pretty penny for this base.
Okay.
But all that said, right when we get to when they we know where he is, and so they all go to Thanos,
Mhm.
and then Thor's just so enraged about the whole. And so
Mhm.
then when he took off his head, he does it, and then he walks
Yep.
away, and it fades to black. I'm sitting in a chair, and so we're like 10 minutes into it. I
Yeah.
go, woo!
Yeah.
I stood up. I was like,
Great
"That's
movie.
Yeah, great movie. Let's go." And the whole audience was like, "Ah!" grabbing their gut, laughing. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when then it says 5 years later, I go, oh, there's more, and I sat right back.
Oh, there's more.
And so
I thought it'd be longer.
the mood chick, because like 3 hours went by like 15, like a snap.
Oh, yeah. Snap.
So
Snap.
and then 5 years later, it just like you see the
Oh.
heaviness of the theme, just like
Yes.
everything looks like a post-apocalyptic type of, like granted people are alive, but like barely anything. And how they showed
50%.
how everybody was doing. The best one though, obviously Thor, but I was not expecting Hulk to be that.
Professor
Yeah, that
Hulk,
was
yeah.
that was a surprise for sure
That
when
was
they
pretty
cut
good.
to
Though. It was funny.
Hulk
Hey,
and
what's
Bruce
going
Banner
on?
mixed together.
Hulk smash. Yeah.
Ooh,
They don't want to take
grr.
it Ant-Man.
that was great. Like,
No, I thought
Google aside, it was great.
the Bruce Banner and Hulk in the middle area was smart because they needed that later for the film as a
Yes.
plot device, and also we had experienced in Infinity War that he was having a hard time becoming Hulk. So it makes sense to me that Bruce Banner, who's a very smart scientist, would be able to like mimic, recreate his kind of handling of Hulk into kind of a best of both. He's got the smarts of Bruce, but the intelligence of Hulk, but the strength of Hulk, and kind of put together, so he has complete control over it. I thought it worked.
Do you ever,
Definitely.
you ever get the crap bit out of you so hard that even the Hulk doesn't want to come out? Like, nope.
Yeah.
That's like that's I thought about that when I saw Infinity War. I'm like, how bad of a presence Thanos has got to be that Hulk is saying, mm-mm. And like seeing that, and, like we didn't come when the whole movie's like he's trying to come out. I'm like, you know what? Most men experience this problem. I get it. So, under pressure, you can't just be able to transform as such. But the way they brought it up, because he's a scientist, and even more so because of the dynamic between that and Black Widow, was I knew the stakes were going to be a bit higher.
Right.
I was hoping to see more more Hulk smash. After the whole Black Widow event happens, he's so mad and enraged, and it didn't really happen per se. He just throws the bench into the water with the whole back, and that's all that. But seeing that, hang on, really quickly, did you think Black Widow was the one who was actually going to die, or did you think who did you in that moment for the Soul Stone? Who did you actually think was going to be the one that goes?
Ooh.
I thought it was going to be Hawkeye.
I thought it was Hawkeye.
Yeah, I did too, because I was just like, oh, he's done. Like, he doesn't like being in these movies anymore. This is how they're going to write him off. And he seems like a character that wasn't very present with the Avengers more recently. So he's like, I don't want to fight Thanos anyway. Come on, just let me go. He's like, I lost my family. And Black Widow, like she said earlier in the film, she's like, I have a family now. Like, I've grown attached to all these people, and now we lost them. And then when they're fighting over who's jumping, I was like, okay, now you're both gonna fall, you idiots.
Yeah.
Stop fighting over it. They kept trying to grab each other.
Well, so
stop it.
Most of the time, like normal movies, like you kind of know what's gonna happen. Like, anyone can kind of guess, likely this, Thanos walking up to the Soul Stone thing. You knew that Gamora was gonna be gone in 3 seconds.
Why is Gamora?
I don't know. You tell me.
We got a super chat from Burton in this chat, thank you, who says, all I want to know is why did me and like 30 other people sit and wait through the credits? It was like, oh yeah, Endgame.
Yeah, don't.
I read that online.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't wait through the credits. I kind of wish I did, but it was late.
They were good.
Like 3 a.m.
I bet they weren't allowed to because of the running time. They were just like, no, you gotta wrap this up. You gotta end it.
I think you gotta end game it. Hey,
yeah, you gotta end the game here. Exactly.
I did think
no, but
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that to the guy in the chat saying it should have been Hulk and Black Widow because they had a love story and Hawkeye and Black Widow didn't. They had a love that was not romantic for each other. They had a love similar to, Thanos and Gamora. That's his daughter. It's like a family love. And they have been on so many missions together. And then for them to be finally reunited, I thought it was a powerful moment because we had the previous Avengers film of them growing attached to each other as friends. It was
Yes.
never a love interest thing. It was never a like, oh, they're gonna hook up. They're like, and we didn't need that in this movie. It wasn't
No.
supposed to be a love story shoehorned in there, like they kind of Vision and
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch in
Scarlet.
Infinity War. It's just like, oh, there's this little romantic love. It's like, no, this is about the characters, and that was the ultimate sacrifice because she did have things to lose. Both of them did, and
Yeah.
it proved that how much Black Widow cared about him, knowing
Yeah.
that he had an actual family to bring back. And
Yeah.
Hulk, I think, served as an excellent plot device because they needed someone to snap their
Yeah.
fingers holding the gems, and he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was basically the only one who could do it and make it out alive.
And, yeah.
Yo,
So
Barely.
I think it makes perfect sense.
can we talk about something so important to me? Can we
Okay.
talk about our man Tony?
Yes,
No, we're going to talk about
I
him.
thought he was the highlight of the film.
I thought
Yes, definitely.
everything looking back at since Iron Man 1 now, since they reused the lines and everything. Oh, okay, cool. I guess my wallpaper doesn't want to stay up.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. I know.
Ooh.
Hang on.
Spoilers.
There we go. Fixed it. Think.
Oh,
I
goody.
fixed it.
There you
Okay.
go.
So, here's the thing. When he said, "This is my life now," like when he was talking about, it's like I'm not gonna risk losing my like what he really wanted this whole time with the family, and all that. That I don't know why, but that scene hit me. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't blame him. It's like, yeah, it sucks. The half the population's gone, and but Tony's like, you know what? I got lucky with this. I made it out. She made it out. We started a family out of this, and I will not give this up for anything. I think on a a personal level for all of us, like in some way we can kind of relate to that. It's like it's hard to make that sacrifice for the greater good when your life, your personal life, your family that you've created is at risk at play. Because now it's like if you go back in time and you mess that up and none of that comes like cease to exist then, or doesn't play out, you're not going to risk that. And I would not have blamed him. I know the story wouldn't go that way, but if Tony actually was like, I'm not doing it, I couldn't fault him for it because I'm like, I get it. But
I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
seeing-
And that
seeing
made
that-
it all the more difficult of
It
like, we're going to
did.
do time travel, but we cannot undo what's been done. Like,
I'm not going to risk that. And
my
and I
daughter,
like that.
my
Yeah.
relationship for the past 5 years, like, we're not changing that. Like, that has to stay.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's crazy because it's like it reminds me of that like scenario that we're given. It's like the train's going towards a track of and you can split the track, and but if you do, where the train might hit like a child, it
right.
deviates and hits 10 people instead. And it's like that's hard. That's really hard to fathom if one of those 10 people is your family and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
we have to find another way to do this. It's
Right.
the stakes are higher for Tony, and I think for the longest time, not knowing that's how it was going to end with him, and they conclude that Iron Man as a whole. I've always was the most invested into Tony Stark's story
Really?
arc because
Huh.
it
I'm
was
the opposite.
no, I was so invested into it because he what even after Iron Man 3 and he just had a supporting role in all the other movies. I liked the he was the best of everything with resources, with his money, him being a genius, him being the comic relief at times too, and also that smart ass type of mentality that he has, where he's just very he's the not the anti-hero, but like after Civil War and that whole I was always siding with Tony on things. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I was Team Iron Man the whole way through, just
Really?
because yeah, more so than
Wow.
I liked what he represented more than I liked Captain America. So
Wow.
yeah, I think when it came up to that part and it all lead up to he's like, I'm not gonna risk losing my family. I was like, walk away, Tony, walk away, just do it. Because
Well, that's the beauty of Tony Stark is that he's quippy and he's a smart act, and he makes all these jokes and names for people that are funny, but at the same time, that gets you attached to the emotional scenes he goes through, and that's what I was so happy about with the relationship he had with his father in this movie, because they've been hinting
Oh.
at that that Howard Stark character for so many years, and now that with the time travel, I get that it's a coincidence. It's very rare that would be possible, but it was more useful for the character that he was able to interact and have that one last conversation with his dad.
Yeah.
That was like the same actor from the 2008 Iron Man. I was just like, oh my god, my heart. It was so satisfying to me because I was just so happy for him that like in these final days, in these final battles, he was able to have closure there, because that was always such a hard point for him. Even in Captain America Civil War, they had a huge scene with him like reenacting like the last time he talked with his parents, right, when he was younger. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm still
was
so like
gold.
I'm so satisfied that they gave justice to that character. So yeah, I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
So
Captain America's that's America's ass right there.
So I am almost the exact opposite of Randy.
Okay.
I never understood the original Iron Man movies. I watched 1, 2, and 3. I never really got attached to them. They were just something I did because my friends liked them. I didn't really like Tony Stark as a character, mainly because, you know, billionaire playboy. Like, now I understand, like, oh, he's Elon Musk. Okay, cool, we're good. But,
Elon Musk, if he could speak.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, actually, if you, I'm Iron Man.
Yeah.
Exactly. I really got involved in Captain America. Captain America. So my parents grew up around Star Wars. That was their franchise.
Same.
Luke Skywalker was their hero. Captain America is my hero. Captain America is who I grew up with. That's who I looked up to. Captain America is my favorite Avenger by far. I love Captain America. Just his sheer like story arc, you know, come from a scrawny boy in the 40s to like, you know, old man, but we'll get to that. But, you know, he has a very rich character arc, and so does all of the other Avengers, honestly. They're very rich characters. But I identified most with Captain America, and I really, really enjoyed what was that? Winter Soldier. That was probably my favorite Marvel movie.
That's interesting. I've never been a big fan of Cap.
Really?
Because Drew is smart. No, I'm just kidding.
I just like the idea more of a guy who's like
Captain America.
Yeah. I just prefer
booty.
the idea of a guy who's outsmarts his way rather than just like gets a serum.
Yeah.
Like that it's kind of like the
It's
Superman Batman argument, you know, like Batman is like the ninja who has to be a detective and work his way to the top. And that's how I feel about Iron Man. He's like he's just a real smart, like his inventions are what make him powerful. It's his money. It's not his like serum or he was standing too close to a light speed engine and it exploded. So that made him the most powerful being in all of existence.
Yeah, he became a self-made superhero in a sense.
Exactly.
So that's why I wear the Batman shirt as well, because I rep billionaires, playboy. But you know, the whole Captain America is like, I can do this all day. I know, like the fact that
he did a great job in this movie.
The fact that he acknowledges how over the top Captain America can be, I was like, kudos. But can we talk about why Captain America be looking like Joe Biden at the end of the movie?
Okay, we need to talk about one thing before that.
Okay,
I promise. My favorite scene with Captain America from this entire movie was the elevator scene. I was waiting for callbacks.
Yes,
that
was genius.
Nod of each other, and he said, "Hail Hydra!"
Right.
I loved it. I loved it.
I was like, that was the smartest move I've ever seen Cap do.
It's okay.
Yes. Oh,
Hydra.
Beautiful.
I had no idea what they were doing because they got into that elevator, and I was like, "Are they just going to recreate the scene from Winter Soldier?" Because that didn't happen in Avengers. I was like, "This doesn't make any sense. What are they doing? Are they trying to like call back to?" But then when he did the Hail Hydra thing, I was just like,
"Oh,
I loved it."
Oh, my brain!
I know. Oh.
Too genius for me. I wouldn't have thought of that.
8 years of build up for that one line, though. Like, all
and they
the
just
Captain
handed
America
back
series.
to him.
Oh, it was beautiful. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so let's talk about
inconspicuously that Loki just disappeared like that into another
Yes,
timeline. I
Loki's
love it.
coming
So
back.
now he's not dead because
Yes,
he
He
just took.
I love
disappeared into
Loki.
a Disney Plus original show that's
There
coming
you
later.
go, where it
He
lives on
disappeared.
forever.
Ooh.
Yeah, the Tesseract. So I like how they put in that little Easter egg. They were like, so Loki may have gotten out somewhere
And
along
that's
the.
great because Loki is
Wink, wink,
legit
nudge, nudge.
my favorite villain in the MCU. Like he's very playful, he's very fasted. I
So
enjoy
you like
Loki.
lawful good Captain America and chaotic evil Loki? You're on the spectrum too much there.
Dude, I live on the spectrum.
I
Oh,
think the way they set up the film to be like, no, it's not just go and punch Thanos. It's like you have
Hmm.
to use. I thought they earned time travel. Let's put it
Yes.
that way. Like time
Yes.
travel. When I first heard about them doing that in Endgame, I was like, oh god, like now nothing
cop
matters. But
out. Yeah, it's a
in
cop.
this film, they made it still possible but very difficult, and like
Hmm.
resources are limited, so you have to use the pim particles to go through the quantum realm. It's not as simple as just, oh, we made a time machine, we can go back and fix everything. It's like, no, you can only interact with very simple things, and you can't change too much or else this all falls apart. So
Hmm.
I think they made it difficult, and they made it look like it was something they had to work up towards, and then they couldn't use it constantly. So that's what I appreciate about how they handled time travel. If you think too hard about it, I'm sure there are plot holes, as I have too. I was thinking at the end of the movie, I was like, wait, if Cap goes back and puts all the Infinity Stones back where they belong, does that mean Thanos still gets them? Like, I don't, I don't know
Every time
Don't
travel
think about that.
paradox has its own paradox involved.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's
There's
just
no safe way to do it where
as
you
long as
close
you don't
everything
make
off.
it a cop out where it's like, oh, where consequences have no meaning. Um,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Black Widow's gone. Iron Man's
Yeah.
gone. They're not coming back. Maybe different iterations of them. Uh, Other people pick up the mantle, so to say, or what have you, but they're gone. Those people, uh, you
Captain
can't.
America's gone.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh darn, darn. How's it feel to lose the one thing that you idolize? Darn. Loki's not though. I'm
It
so
was
happy
really
he's back
satisfying though.
because I
Like,
feel like there's so much more that they can do with Loki. And here's my thought process now. Now you have going into Guardians 3 and Thor's with them for Guardians 3. I think that storyline will be about Gamora, since she's a different Gamora, having to
hmm,
relearn
Yeah,
what
that'll be interesting.
and the same thing with Loki. I feel like he'll be
yeah,
involved now that Thor's there, and these two different versions of them will have to kind of readapt and learn what's going on in this universe that they're a part of now. So it it'll be interesting, and I hope they don't just always cop out on this whole like, oh well, time travel that explained it. I want them. I want it to be more intricate than that. But I feel like I trust Marvel to put thought behind what they write up and stuff like that. So I think we'll be good. And if not, that's why you have Disney Plus, and so they'll just fix
I
it.
think they're going to have a very hard time topping what they've created.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's going to
definitely.
be all I can imagine is they're going to try to go off with the characters from Phase 2, like Doctor Strange and Black
Hmm.
Panther, and they'll use some of those characters. Black Panther may have been Phase 3. I'm sorry, whatever. Just the guys that aren't from the original Avengers, the
Right.
Spider Man, and they're going to try to keep the Avengers going, and it'll be called the New Avengers, and they'll try to build it up again. But the problem is like the greatest threat you could have possibly imagined to the universe has been presented and defeated. So
Nope.
it's going to be really tough to get the
As
stakes as
as
high.
Thanos said, he is inevitable. I would not be surprised if we had another Thanos come back
Well, they're going to try to
because we
do it
already
again,
have
but it won't
timelines.
be as meaningful because then it'll be more like villain of the week. It'll be more
Yeah.
like, this guy wants to destroy 2/3 of the universe. Oh, no.
I think Thanos will
There.
be
All of it.
like referenced a lot, but I don't think he's like directly going to come back in that same sense. I
I don't know.
think
No,
I
he's
wouldn't be
gone.
surprised if he did.
yeah. But I mean, but what a great like just when I think about Thanos and kind of like I guess jumping universes here with DC, and you think of Dark Side, and you just think of like all these like ultimate beings that they did Thanos so right because they introduced him so early on, and just
Hmm.
by
Mhm.
little pieces. And we find out only afterwards that Loki was working with him at one point. That's how he got one of the stones. And it's he was behind the curtains for so long that the lead up and the intro to the whole thing, giving him two full movies worth of screen time. It's if I don't watch another like Marvel movie that has to do with the Avengers, I'm good because I feel like that'd be the conclusion of of that whole story. If they move
Mhm.
them over to going into Disney Plus, and we get to see individual movies, different. I'm not talking about like let Spider Man have his movie, let Hulk, let the prequel of Scarlett Johansson if
Oh,
she's
I'm excited for that. Yeah.
yeah, like
Hmm.
all that's all good for cinematic stuff, but I think they can into phase 4. I would like to see when they expand cross lines, even with Deadpool now being part of it. I would like to see
That'd be
that.
interesting.
I want to see it break the fourth wall in a sense that when we have Disney Plus in play now, that because it's going to be a lot of exclusives, I think you have more room to work with on a smaller scale because you have more time to buy and build out what to do with this phase 4. And if you want to bring back time travel ish ish, I think as long as we pay the original story its respects, the original Avengers, Iron Man, all that, then as long as it's treated carefully, I think you can still make that work if you want to like stretch it out just a little bit more. But I am now more interested in individual stories. Like I want to see in
Hmm.
Spider-Man, I want to see the Green Goblin come toe to toe with him. For uh, I don't I know that we'll get another Black Panther movie, but I feel like that to me was it's such a good standalone movie by itself that like it can just kind of exist over there and do its thing. If we don't touch another Captain Marvel movie, I'm good.
Me too.
I'm good. Like
In fact, I don't need another Black Panther, but
no, give show
they'll
me
do it. I know.
Man's successor years later and how he or she will come back and you know do Iron Man again because like I
Oh,
think
they were totally setting up the daughter is going to
Oh
be
yeah,
Iron Woman of
yeah,
some kind. You know, like I
totally.
totally
That
saw
was
that. I
cute.
was like,
That
they're
was so
putting
cute.
the seeds in there, but it's you can't top what Robert Downey Jr.
No.
did. Like, it's not going to
no,
work.
he is
They'll try.
He's Iron Man. That man right
So
there.
I am Iron Woman,
He is. I no, you're
and
not
she's going to be 12 years old
Iron
and
Man.
better somehow.
And some
exactly.
her and Peter Parker will like make it a thing or something.
Right. No, I think
Their timelines, but yeah. So I think overall the MCU has done a fantastic job at adding in lots of details really early.
Yeah.
yes.
Uh, Star Wars is not that type of franchise, and I've never really seen a franchise that is like the MCU, and that's why I love the
No,
MCU
no,
so
Star Wars
much.
is completely they're winging it every step of the
Yeah,
way. They have no
exactly.
idea what they're doing.
They're like, oh, Ryan Johnson, we're gonna have a slow
Yeah.
spaceship
Do
and
whatever you want.
kangaroo horses, yay! It feels a lot more disorganized, but the MCU feels very, very organized because it was Thanos was in the original Avengers, right?
Yeah.
At the
The
very
end
end, it
cut.
wasn't Josh Brolin,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were
Well,
hinting
yeah.
at it
I
from the
mean,
What
very.
still,
a
they had
great
the idea
actor,
of
by the
Thanos.
way. Oh
They
my
had the
goodness.
idea of these Infinity Stones. They had the idea of they planted all these little seeds, like in Ultron when Captain America is offered that dance with what's her name?
Mm.
What's Captain America's
You
love
tell
interest
me,
Peggy,
name?
Team America.
Peggy.
Peggy.
Thank you. I knew that. I was just making sure you knew that, Drew. Yeah, he was offered that dance with Peggy, and there's just like all these little like, it's beautiful. And then in Endgame and Infinity War, they tied everything together. Everything just was tied up in a nice little bow. We had resolutions to almost all of our questions. Very epic moments that were years in the making. Like the reason why I love that Hail Hydra moment so much from Captain America is because literally that was all of Captain America's story arc.
Yeah.
all the way back 1940s. He was against
Fighting the
Hydra.
Nazis.
Yep, fighting the Nazis, and to have that
Now
come
he's
full
outsmarting
circle,
them.
and now he's outsmarting them because his story arc has been completed. He's gone through this entire story arc, learned all about Hydra, and all these movies: Captain America, Winter Soldier, Avengers. He's learned, and it's just They even got Zolo in there, and it's like, oh,
There's a lot holding
beautiful.
these films up. That's the thing. Like,
Yes,
if you were to just watch Endgame or Infinity War without any of the backstory,
I
it
feel
probably
so
wouldn't
bad.
mean very much. It's just
Mm-mm.
that's the only way these films can work, with so many characters and so many different people from different plot lines interacting, is if you have their backup, if you have their character developments set up in previous films. That's what DC never understood with their extended universe. They were trying to just, oh, they're all together now, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to get to
Who
know them
cares? Yeah,
first
like, who
Mhm.
cares?
in order for Endgame to be meaningful. And I saw a lot of people saying that like Infinity War was better, or like Infinity War is a better movie. The thing is, it's a different type of movie because its entire existence is dependent on, but there's another one.
Right.
Mhm.
So you can do totally different things with Infinity War because you have 3 hours to wrap up the plot after that movie. And I enjoyed Infinity War as well. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying it served its purpose well. So did Endgame.
Yes.
Endgame served its purpose of wrapping up and being a closure film, which it did, I think, what it needed to do to get everyone back and to get the satisfying conclusions for the people who are not going to be in the films anymore. Wrapping up their characters that are in ways that are unique and satisfying for the people who have been watching these films for so long.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's a part two. It's a continuation of Infinity War. It's like the Empire Strikes Back and
Mhm.
Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back has that freedom of ending things on a low note. Things aren't going well, everything's falling apart, but it sets everything up for the remaining characters to go back and end it all and provide a
That's why
conclusion.
we have a
Jedi.
trilogies. That's why trilogies are a thing. First,
Right.
a movie in a trilogy gets you to know the characters, gets you involved in the universe. Second, has the entire universe fall apart, and the third is where they build that back up.
Exactly. And that's what they did with Endgame was build it back up.
Over
And
10 years.
I'm so happy that they focused more on the characters than
Yes.
just like plot details of just like,
Mhm.
how does time travel work, or like,
Yeah,
oh, we
I was
use
so
this
glad
and
that
we
they
had
kind
to
of glossed
punch
over
him
that.
hard enough.
I hated it when Doc Brown or whoever else is trying to explain how time travel works. I'm just like, I don't care. Like, just move on. And they glossed over that real nicely when Iron Man figured out time travel. I really appreciated that.
Oh,
Just hey, it's a thing now. We figured it out. Moving on.
Right. Especially seeing Iron Man hold Infinity Stones.
Oh,
Oh, it was
I
just
am.
the most satisfying imagery I've ever seen in cinema.
Iron Man. Boom.
That was very satisfying. As a person who was on Team Cap, that was still very satisfying.
And they referenced every time travel movie they could. Exactly, Sam. Thank
Yes,
you.
it was wonderful.
You're basing the saving of the universe off of Back to the Future. Yeah. And I think personally, I'm sorry Kuno didn't like that the tone was shifting. I thought it was perfectly tonally matched, because in the beginning, where they wanted things to be dark, they kept it dark. There was comedy bits like there are in any Marvel film, but I think that's to prevent people from feeling like a 3-hour misery fest when they're expecting Marvel films, which are not misery movies. There's comedy in them. There's references in them to pop culture, and they're not supposed to be, the Dark Knight. These are
Lord singing.
these are characters that the Russos want people to like. They want people to feel with. And you don't have friends that you just seriously talk about the depressing things of life. You have fun with them. You laugh. You go to see things, and
Marvel
you have a
was
good
just
time.
trying
And
to stay Marvel. DC is the one that was chasing itself, trying to be another Dark Knight over and over again, and it was
right.
It was just a cheap knockoff that wasn't fooling anybody. Marvel never intended to do that. They had their own path the whole way, and I think like when you have a 3-hour movie, you definitely need the comic relief. You need to add the tension. You need to add the tongue in cheek jokes and stuff. So that way, pacing it doesn't become so redundant. Because if all you get is battle for
Miserable,
3 hours,
miserable. Yeah.
you get just as a viewer eye fatigue. Just all right, you don't. It's all chaos in your eyes. Like all right, now you're just kind of checking out and zoning out about. So I think the pacing was great because it didn't feel like a 3 hour movie. The pacing
Mm-mm.
was done.
It never slugged.
No,
There was
No.
never scenes I felt like that went on for too long. It felt
Mhm.
very quickly paced.
you know
Everything.
what? I love you 3000. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Oh
my
my gosh.
god.
Oh,
Mm.
I'm dead.
Oh,
Those Russos know what they're doing.
oh.
They know how to make a movie. But yeah, to me, I get it. Like if the movie wasn't good to you, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. We're not trying to persuade your opinion. If you didn't enjoy it, you didn't enjoy it. And if the comedy didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. But to me, even the comedy that didn't exactly work, that maybe might not have been as funny, needed to be there because ultimately a movie's way to interpret and change the way the viewers feel is how you get them attached. It's not just
Mhm.
me watching someone go through a miserable experience. That's like a World War II movie. That's like watching someone go through a, concentration camp and I feel bad for them. We're trying to relate the user. We're not trying to be like, oh, this tragedy of Avengers. No, it's like these are our friends. These are people we know that we're attached to. And even in the tough times, relieving that tension with the joke is even more prominent because you're like, oh, like these are my friends. These are they're trying to make the most of the situation, because I think that's how real life is. Even in the hardest of situations, we're gonna find the comic relief, the dark comedy. They'll try to liven the tension in the midst of danger, in the midst of the universe ending. There would still be this effort to try to make the best of it, or try to lighten the mood. To me, that just makes the characters more believable. It makes the characters more um engaging with the audience because we feel like close to them. If they were just depressed, miserable, and sad the whole time, that's how you end up with the Justice League, where everyone's just like,
Yep.
this is
I think that's
You
why
went there.
you have Deadpool so successful as well, because it takes it just a little step further and goes meta and breaks that fourth wall. But the fact that the whole thing is a good balance of tragedy with comic relief, like he knows what he is, he knows what he's gone through, and all you can do is kind of counteract it with humor, as well as just messing up people the whole. I think there's Deadpool being as successful as it is shows that the character investment that you put into a story is not just the tragedy part. You have to make them relatable, and you have to show them three dimensional. If it's all tragedy, 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 it's still a one dimensional character. Like Thanos, there are times where I go like, I kind of get where you're coming from. I think it's completely flawed, but I understand why.
like when you're in traffic.
Oh yeah, no, I'm the only one. I have to be somewhere, and all
Half
the
the
things
people off the
go away.
highway.
Drew, you don't know nothing about traffic. You're one step above living inside a mountain right now.
Yeah. No, but yeah, no, I got, like, they made Thanos interesting,
It
which
was
was good.
because you see him battle with the fact that he loves his daughter, and you see that, and he does not want to kill her, and he still goes through it. Like it's a really messed up way that you look at it, but I like you could see him still have that internal struggle, and he's like, I can't compromise, not even for myself. Like you just you see the battles, and
You respect it. You don't agree with it, but you
yeah,
respect it.
and that's good story writing. I think that's great
It
story
is.
writing, and they did a great job.
They did. It
Definitely.
wasn't like just
Good
big
movie.
purple evil man,
Big, big,
So
big
yeah,
old
can we talk
Bonnie
about
over
that?
here.
Yeah.
Big Purple Man and Little Ant Man. Their little
Yeah.
romance.
They conquered.
I actually loved watching Ant-Man be an enormous giant running
Yes.
into battle. That was satisfying as hell.
Stepping on literally nothing.
I loved
Like,
that shot of the the flying caterpillar things, and he just
Mhm.
like punches it straight. I was like, no. It's beautiful. And then
So, are we
there's so
ready
many
to?
beautiful moments in that war scene.
Yeah,
I want to
can we
just
talk
watch
about that a
that
little
over and over
deeper?
again.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
definitely.
it's Avengers Assemble. Oh,
Right.
Well, no,
oh,
on your left. On your left. As a Captain America follower, it gave me chills, and like I lost it in the theater.
I got chills too.
On your left. Oh,
I
and it
actually got the
burst
most amount
more
of chills
because
when Cap stands up and then the portal behind him opens up. I'm
oh,
yes,
like,
no, that's what I mean. That's what it was. So yeah,
ugh.
Captain America is all by himself. There's no way he could ever win
give myself
against
goosebumps
Thanos and his
right
entire army, but he was willing to do it all by himself. That's why
Yeah.
I love Captain America.
Yo,
He was so
okay.
selfless.
The moment I realized how beast Thanos is, he goes, all those planets, none of it was personal. I'm going to enjoy this. I was like, oh my
Oh.
god, he's so bad.
And he's like, I'm gonna get rid of everyone this time.
He's like, you know
And then
what? Now you've shown me.
then the portal opens and on your left, and I was just like, yes! Oh yeah, I lost it. That was
Such-
amazing. And then like that was the perfect way to like get everyone there quick. Like, beautiful, very beautiful.
I'm gonna go
Really
try watch that
thoroughly
movie
done.
again today. I think I've made
Yeah,
up.
I want to as
Yeah,
well.
me
Yeah,
too.
another very satisfying moment for my theater, at least me and Wyatt were clapping, was when Captain Marvel showed up, and so he grabbed the Power Stone and
Yes,
hit her with it,
yes,
and it threw her across. I was like, yes, she
yay!
can be beaten.
When
Only with the
Thanos,
Power Stone.
Thanos is standing,
Go Thanos! Yeah, punch her.
I like the one time you're rooting for the bad guy.
That's the one scene in the movie where I'm like, get her, Thanos, just like completely kill her off, and then she's dead, and she's one of the people they can't bring back. It's like, dang it. Oh well.
Another moment that I just completely was like, ooh, when so you have everything going on, like you took everything from me.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are. You went like just that
Scarlet
moment.
Witch
I'm
just
like,
it's like
so good. Hey, did you guys know at Tony's funeral that one kid, the standalone
yes.
kid,
Who's the teenager?
that's the kid who was in the garage in Iron Man 3 when Tony was yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's great.
oh, that's nice.
That's the actual kid, everything. So he
That's
made
nice.
a cameo.
That was
I
really
was wondering
sweet.
who that was because they lingered on him a little bit longer.
Yeah, he was
And
the
like
kid in the garage.
pure cinematography standpoint, that end scene with all the Avengers, I don't want to guess how many takes that had to do. Because
Oh, they did it
like,
over 6 months. It was all animated, I'm sure.
no. That was a single shot. That was a single take.
No,
Like,
they made it look like one shot. They green screened him in.
Really?
They
Well,
had Samuel
obviously, like,
Jackson in London, and they had Benedict Cumberbatch in Washington, and they had to
Really?
green screen. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
I haven't
I
read that.
stand
I'm just saying,
corrected.
there's no way they got all those people together.
In a single room.
That
one
was
more
like,
time.
that was probably okay. So let's talk about the moments we cried. Obviously, we're manly men, so we don't cry. We just sweat from our eyes.
I'll tell you the exact moment. I only cried at one point.
Okay.
It was cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
It was when
bad.
Happy said, "Do you want to get something to eat?" and his daughter said cheeseburgers, and it brought back the kid in me because I was immediately teleported back to when Iron Man first got out of the cave in the Middle East and he escaped, and he wanted an American cheeseburger, and that just brought it home for me. Like, oh, this is it. This is the end. This is over. This marks the conclusion. Even though it's not like it was just a throwaway funny line of like, oh, he likes cheeseburgers. I was just like,
very
it showed you, and it also kind of helped that Happy is Jon Favreau, who directed the first Iron Man, because it's like the guy who started the whole MCU actually luckily has a role, like the director himself, and he's sitting there like, no, your dad liked cheeseburger, and I lost it at that point. I just started bawling. I was like, oh, this is never going to happen again. There's never going to be a universe. There's never going to be a character that is developed over this amount of time that gets people this attached. Like I'm like, this is it. This is
Have you heard
untoppable.
of the Taylosive universe? Because I beg to differ.
The TCU? Yeah.
I'll try to
We're
top
still
it one day when I'm making my own movies.
The
I've got a plan, but it'll be difficult to top that.
Yeah, you're right though. That cheeseburgers thing messed me up.
Oh.
That that last like 2-3 minutes, like I was just like,
Yeah.
I got like the first time, like it was excited tears. Like I just couldn't. I
Yes.
streamed in the theater was when all of the whole Avengers, everything, the portal, when that all happened and they were
That was-
crashing, I literally
You'll get
I
chills.
was like, yeah. And so when I did that, like eyes were watery, just excitement. It wasn't like an emotional thing of like sadness. It was just like I'm so excited right now, like on a roller coaster. Yeah,
Right.
so much fun. And then from the moment they did his send off, and you hear RDJ's voiceover from Iron Man 1 says like, maybe they want a happy ending, but sometimes you don't get that. And
Yep.
I instantly went back to the first Iron Man. I'm like, oh my god! And then the Iron Man 3, and I'm just because my favorite Avenger is Iron Man. It was something for me like
And they put the original arc reactor on the lake that
Yes.
says
Oh,
I
proof that Tony
Tony
Stark
Stark
has a
has a
heart.
heart.
I just
oh,
my heart.
I can't breathe right.
Ant-Man's giving me a heart attack.
yeah, just stop it, stop it.
Ant-Man's giving me a heart attack.
I think it's just beautiful to see a franchise where you can tell that they care and they notice the little things, even things that the audience doesn't remember. They will bring back and throw in front of you. It's like,
You don't remember it.
right. It's like the audience, unlike Captain Marvel, when we're watching the movie and saying, "Why are they saying Shield? It wasn't called Shield back then." As an average moviegoer, not even a comic book reader, I shouldn't be correcting the movie. The movie should be correcting me and reminding me of things that I don't even remember. And that arc reactor was one of them. I totally forgot about that. Like Tony Stark has a heart thing, but that was like the cherry on top. Seeing it at the end, being like, oh.
And then it goes back to Hawkeye just doing his thing with his family again.
That was beautiful.
Anyway, so mayonnaise.
The scene that I teared up over, and there are a couple, but the biggest one was when Cap went back in time, and
that was very satisfying.
And at first I was like, "Is that Joe Biden?" Like he's on set of the movie, and I was like,
"Why is Obama and Biden talking?"
But it was just cheered so much. So
Can I count on your support?
I thought the de-aging, not de-aging, I should say, the aging animation was very believable.
Oh my goodness, very believable. It was very satisfying to all Cap wanted, even back from original Captain America, was to have that dance with Peggy. All he wanted. When he woke up in New York, he realized, Peggy was no longer, she was old, and well, yeah, she was alive in Winter Soldier. But anyway, but
which is gonna be funny now because she's gonna be like, "Don't worry, Cap. We grew old together, but you don't know that."
Yeah. Oh, the timeline.
Dementia.
But yeah, it's.
Does that mean he made out with his own niece?
Stop.
Is he still your favorite, Nick?
Oh my gosh.
That's what I like about Iron Man.
He's
loyal.
Butt, so
after 2008.
But like his whole character arc was about now that Peggy isn't a thing, I just have to defend the country. That was his MO. I can't have Peggy. I'm not going to have a love life. I'm not going to have a family life. I'm just going to, fight against evil. And knowing that Cap had the opportunity, and he took the opportunity to live his life the way he wanted as a normal person, was very, very satisfying. Even though he looked like Joe Biden, and I was really confused.
Like most times in movies when they try to make young people look old, that's very noticeable and the makeup looks really bad. And that I was like, that is legit Chris Evans at the age of 90. Like it looks just like him, and yet it's old. It was so at first I didn't even think it was Cap. I was like, is that the same actor? Like what did they do?
I was like, oh. So the shield is a little confusing because Thanos destroyed his shield, but anyway, I don't know. It was confusing.
I thought
and I'm keeping it.
Yeah. I thought the fight scene where it was just Thor, Cap, and Iron Man versus Thanos was also very good because it was
Cap was so good. We haven't even talked about this yet.
The dual wielding Thor. He's like,
oh, you get the small one.
Yeah.
with his gut, that was perfect.
Oh yes, and he actually looked like a Nordic god because he has a giant beard, long hair, and he's fat. And I was like, see, he doesn't look like eye candy anymore. He looks like an actual Scandinavian legend.
His beard is braided. He has a gut. He's a god.
He's wielding two lightning hammers. And I was like, when he's swinging both of them around.
Oh my god.
Oh, those guys know what they're doing. Those Russos are geniuses.
When Thanos finally died and he just sat down, he's just like,
yes.
And he sat down. He's like, my it's over. And
Yep.
even though it was so subtle, it wasn't this epic like and vapor nothing.
Yeah.
It was subtle. It was so fitting because it's like we finally have a moment to breathe, and it's almost like we're resting with him when he's just like he
Hmm.
acknowledges he lost. He sat down and he just like heads down and just goes. And I'm like, that is I was expecting it to be more, epic, but it was out of the whole thing being so epic, it was subtle and fitting in all the right ways, and I felt like it was believable that time. Like when Thanos, obviously, besides the timestamp, 10 minutes in, all right, Thanos dies. Like, oh, that I hope he doesn't die like that again at the end of the movie because it was just kind of too much of a build up. Maybe I've been too and takes his head off. I'm like, that's cool, but it was poetic almost. Like, all right, you're done. Inevitable. You're inevitably dead. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Right.
Oh, good.
No, I love
I
I
love
think
it.
Robert Downey Jr. did a great performance with that last scene with
Hmm.
the way he said I am Iron Man was just
Yep.
so earned and like heartfelt because you could tell he was like in a lot of pain, but at the same time,
Hmm.
you can see in his eyes. I have looked over this scene several times because people upload it to Instagram and like little clips. And I'm just like,
Oh.
I go on Instagram and search Endgame spoilers and I just look for the videos. But seeing the scene of him like turn on the gauntlet and you can watch his eyes as he like decides I'm done. He said he's like, this is going to be the last thing I do, and it's going to be remembered, and everyone's going to be so glad it happened. And I'm so done with this. I'm ending it. Like even if it takes me out, it's worth it. And like it was expressed so well just after Thanos being like inevitable, thunk, and then cut back to
Yeah.
Iron Man. He's just like,
I
I am Iron Man, and then he like looks forward and goes,
So
oh,
let me ask you this. Do you think Spider-Man's lines again this time when Iron Man dies, do you think his lines were improv again?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Mm.
They may have been.
Yeah, maybe because like it was such a good moment in Infinity War that whole thing was improv. Do you think the way Peter starts to break down again, do you think that was improv? Guys in the comments,
Mm.
do you think that scene was improv? I think it was improv. I think it
I
was.
think it could have been. It might be. I don't know for sure, but yeah, maybe.
Because that's the trivia side of me that's always so curious about like
Yeah,
what was this about this movie? Because this is a movie I want to know everything about. I want to know about
me too. I'm
no
excited for the behind the scenes and
can't
stuff.
wait.
Mm.
Such a good movie. Such a good movie.
I'm just happy I'm satisfied with it because I've been in the opposite boat before where a ton of people love a movie and I hate it. And I hate being in that position because I'm like, to the people who
Episode
like
8.
movies I don't, that's to your benefit, like you got entertainment, you got enjoyment, whereas I didn't. So I wasted my money basically. So like I am happy to be on this side that I was able to watch it, be satisfied, and feel like I got good closure just because I was really worried about the Captain Marvel presence in there,
Hmm.
given how they treated her in her own movie. And I was like, oh, it's just so stupid. I just hope it doesn't turn into Captain Marvel saves the day.
I
And she really didn't. I felt like the scenes she was in because she had to be.
yeah.
Like the Russos
Hmm.
probably would have kicked her out entirely if they could have, but they weren't able to.
She doesn't
Um,
deserve to be the one that saves the day because she wasn't there for the inception. Like
no,
this is
no,
this is
Hmm.
not a this is not a anything else in the fact that like this was not her story. She should not have that right, that send off like that because
no,
it wasn't hers to give.
no, not at all. But yeah, I'm interested in where they're gonna go with the MCU leading out. But yeah, I still just think there's no way you're gonna be able to top what they did with the first three
Hmm.
phases and in the four Avengers films. They're just there's too much originality, I think, and too much uniqueness to the OG crew that
Yeah.
anything they try to do next is just going to feel
Yeah.
like it's not living up to the stakes or the performance of those original
5 years
casts.
later, you and I we're all gonna be back here talking about Phase going into Phase 6. I'm like, oh my god, how did they get better?
I think of the characters that are still going to be alive let's not count Thor because his era is kind of over. Who do you think is your favorite Avenger moving on without the
Spider-Man,
OG
no
crew?
question. No
Spider-Man.
question.
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. I
For
love
me, I
Spider-Man.
think it might be Doctor Strange. I'm not a big fan
I
of
like Doctor
Spider-Man,
Strange too. Yeah, but Spider-Man.
but
I love
he has the
I
most
have
Robert Downey
personal-
Jr.-esque character.
I have a personal like investment towards Spider-Man. Growing up
Mhm.
with like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the
Mm.
animated
Yep.
series in the '90s. My family, like my dad, collected the Spider-Man comic books before I was even born, so he has like a collection. So I have like a
Wow.
sentimental attachment to Spider-Man. So that's why I would say Spider-Man. But when we're just talking, like Spider-Man doesn't hold a a candlelight next to Iron Man in this whole
But he
this
has an
part of the
iron
Marvel.
suit.
Huh?
He has an iron suit, so
He does have an iron suit. I like the dynamic between the two.
Yes.
For sure.
Here, let me get the door for you. Yeah.
It was
It's like, oh,
he gives
part.
him a. I know, such a,
Oh.
everything about this is so good, guys. We got to go watch the movie right now.
I know.
We,
I think that's what I'm gonna do this afternoon.
we
I
have
need
to go
a, I
watch
need a second viewing for sure. Anyways, thank you
What a-
guys for talking about it.
This has
Yeah,
been so
no,
much
thank you. This was fun.
What a refreshing change of pace instead of what iPhone is coming out.
Yeah. Let's do this more often. We'll probably be back for Star Wars or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or Spider-Man. We'll see. And thank you guys for watching and for your super chats and for tuning in. Helps us out. And we will see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.